At that point, the pain was like getting really, really intense.
You were just shaking, like you couldn't stop shaking. It was really scary.
Because of what happened to my mom, I definitely had trauma. Like watching my mom give birth to my little sister and then literally start to die.
I was really worried about your safety. I didn't want to lose you.
I had this whole birth plan. They always say, like, don't have a plan. Yeah, it's so true. Like, my plan really was no plan, just like healthy baby, healthy me. But there obviously were like things I wanted.
Our birthing experience. All right, Ashley Moon.
Ashley,
that's my seat.
Daddy sit down?
All right, Mr. Moon. What do you think about being a big brother? I think he's like, I really like my sister, but I don't like when I get woken up every night. To recap, we are on week 10
of Miss Galileo
of being parents. It's been 10 weeks.
10 weeks and 1 day.
And we have not filmed a podcast.
No, we talked about it.
This is our first one.
Yeah.
Our birthing experience.
Our birthing experience.
Your birthing experience.
Okay, you can say you gave birth too.
I always say your birthing experience and I'm tired.
It's okay.
Yeah, to be clear, it was your birthing experience.
But that's okay.
I witnessed.
You were really there with me though for like every single step of the way.
We'll start with leading up. The week before it was getting pretty intense.
The waiting was really hard. Like every day, especially like ticking past her due date. Every day I'd wake up and be like, oh my gosh, I'm still pregnant. And I was just so tired. Like it just, having a large baby inside of you. It's a miracle and it's exhausting. And I knew the day I conceived, like exactly the day we conceived her. So I knew her due date was like correct, And her due date was the day we first met in person at Smith's, where you see us like meeting in person, in the show.
Smith.
Yeah, Smith. Sorry, not Smith. Smith.
Smith.
I'm tired. We're both tired. And so that was so special. And we're like, oh my gosh, like we really want her to be born on that day. And she wasn't. And she's like, I'm going to have my own special day.
And then we're like, okay, it's going to be engagement day. Because I proposed on the 22nd.
Yeah. So we're like, oh, maybe she'll be born on the 22nd.
Yeah.
And she's like, no,
yeah.
I'm going to have my own day.
How were you feeling when we got to the 22nd?
I mean, I was feeling exhausted and anxious, and when is she going to come? Am I ever going to go into labor? Am I ever going to go into labor? Because I was having contractions for the whole month, remember? But then I just wouldn't go into labor. And we went to the doctor and talking to our doula and trying to figure out what to do, and we didn't want to get induced. And I had this whole birth plan. They always say, like, don't have a plan. Yeah, it's so true. Like, my plan really was no plan, just like healthy baby, healthy me. But there obviously were like things I wanted. And I didn't want to be induced. I didn't want an epidural. I didn't want them to break my water. I wanted to do it with no intervention, just naturally giving birth.
Before we even get there, we should talk about the whole midwife's brew. That was a big debate that we had going into that.
Yeah.
I don't know if debate's the right word. It was just
not a debate, because in my mind I was like, what's worse? Like taking this midwife's brew that has
castor oil
and a whole bunch of other different stuff in it. Like, should I just do that? Should I get induced? Like, what is going to be worse for my body?
And my concern with using the castor oil was that our doctors had both.
The doctors were like, no way.
We'd had multiple doctors that said not to. They said that it was going to give you diarrhea.
And then our doula was like, there's all these other things in the brew that help counteract that. And so many people have taken it and gone into labor naturally. Yeah. And it was just very confusing for me. Who do I listen to? But I never actually took it. It just wasn't meant to be for me to take that.
My concern was that if it caused you to become severely dehydrated, that was going to create a risk in labor that could potentially affect your health. What the doctors explained to us was the mechanism of action by which castor oil was inducing labor was by causing you to have extreme GI distress. And so when they explained that to us, that caused me a lot of alarm because any athlete, anyone who's competed in like a competitive sport knows that having GI distress, severe diarrhea before competition is...
Yeah, well, thank God it's not a competition.
Well,
But yeah, no, it's a performance. It's like an extreme physical act, like definitely.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that I did not.
So we waited till the very last
As
day.
long as we could before 42 weeks.
Before the doctor said it wasn't safe to wait any longer, because we really wanted to have a spontaneous birth. At least you wanted to have a spontaneous birth. I think
we both did, because inducing increases all of these risks.
I just wanted you to be safe.
Yeah.
I think going in, that was my biggest thing. I was really worried about your safety. I just, especially with like your mother's story, and I didn't want to lose you. Mm. I was definitely trying to prepare myself for if like the worst case scenario happened. And, you know, you'd told me like what you wanted me to do if we had to choose
between me and Galileo, and I wanted you to choose Galileo.
Yeah. And I was ready if I had to do that, but...
You know, because of what happened to my mom, I definitely had trauma. Like watching my mom give birth to my little sister and then literally start to die. And the doctor had 20 minutes to save her, and she was just bleeding out, and she had D&I, and they had to remove her uterus, give her emergency hysterectomy. And she says that she remembers being cut. That's how quick they had to move. Shooting her with a needle to numb her as they were cutting her, and she remembers just screaming, but they couldn't stop cutting her, and then she went under. The doctor was really close with us and came to her the next day like sobbing, like, I saved your life.
I didn't know that the doctor personally knew your mother before delivering.
Oh, she didn't. She just became close to her during it, and they're close now still. If we go to Arizona, we could go to her house and pick apples from her.
I'd love to meet her. That'd be really cool.
She saved my mom's life. So it was a lot of trauma. I was 15, so I was a little nervous, but I also was just so ready to get the baby born. I was so big and like so exhausted, and I was just ready for her to be born.
I remember walking in there when we showed up at the hospital and realizing in that moment we were going to be walking out of there with a baby.
Outside.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a moment when we checked in.
Well, what are we doing, handsome?
I'm taking you to the hospital.
Why?
Because we got a baby girl to see.
We have an appointment with a little girl. We're so excited and scared. There you are, Leo. You'll watch this one day. There's your cute daddy, and you're in here. Been waiting for you, honey. We're so excited to meet you.
Hey, baby. You ready?
Yeah.
And then we had to have some privacy precautions taken.
Mm-hmm. They were very accommodating. We started out with those little pills, the misoprostol. Yeah, because I wanted to like do the minimal. They're like, this girl's dumb. She's gonna have to get everything. But I was like, no, I don't want anything, to do. So they did that. And then in the morning, they gave us the balloon. And then the balloon, they were like expecting the balloon to take a whole day. And they're like, oh my gosh. That doctor was like, I've never seen anyone dilate that quickly with the balloon.
What was the dilation at?
Well, so the misoprostol got me to, I think, 1 or 1.5, 2. And then they put the balloon in, and then I got to 4. But they were like, wow, this is going to be quick.
And then for the next day,
the contractions started intense, and they were 3 minutes apart. Then it comes out. Then it's like, okay, we're gonna just like wait for you're going. So we like, okay, we're calling the doula. Doula came. So then 3 minutes apart, 3 minutes apart, 3 minutes apart, 3 minutes apart, still at 4 centimeters. It started to get really intense, and I was like using the combs and the TENS machine, and like bouncing on the ball and walking and trying to get the contractions moving. And I just was not dilating past 4 centimeters, 4.5, whatever. And at that point, the pain was like getting really, really intense. It feels like a crane is moving through your body, like a piece of mechanical, intense machinery is crawling its way out of your body. And I wanted to get in the bath, remember? Mm-hmm. And I did. But the monitor kept popping off to monitor her heartbeat. I feel like if I could have stayed in there, I could have made it through.
Yeah, because you didn't want to get an epidural.
No,
I know.
I didn't want to have any intervention.
I am, for the record, pro epidural. Team epidural.
So before I got in the bath, they were like, okay, you're not progressing. Like, we need to break your water. We talked to the doula. We were going back and forth on it. She was like, honestly, Bliss, this is my first experience with something like this. Like, you're just not progressing. Like, I think, do what you feel is best. But yeah, I would get my water broken. And then we were like, okay, let's break the water. And they broke my water. And that was quite the experience, getting my water broken.
There was some things that happened in between there. There was some details that we...
Oh, okay. Tell me what were I'm like, honestly, I don't even know if I remember.
Yeah, because we were concerned that if you had your water broken and if we didn't have any further dilation, or if there wasn't any further dilation, that you might have
infection,
and then have to get a C-section.
Have to get a C-section. That's right.
Yeah, and that was kind of the concern. We had that kind of icky doctor that came in, because we had a bunch of different doctors, and there was one that came in. And
I had my cervix checked throughout this whole process, and the way she did it was just so horridly painful. She
just didn't seem to have much empathy towards you. Like the way, I remember asking her a question and she was kind of standoffish.
She was very cold.
I asked her a question. I was like, okay, so is there a potential that this could increase the risk of having a C-section for Bliss? She just didn't answer my question. I was like, are you going to answer? Like, I'm asking you, what are the risks here if we take this? And she looks at me and she said, oh, are you asking me or the doula? Like, she was offended we had a doula.
She was taking it personally.
She took it personal.
This was not about her.
And so I was very much concerned about that when making any decisions with your health. We talked, I don't know if you remember, but we talked pretty extensively.
Yeah, we did.
And ultimately you decided you wanted to get your water broken, and I supported it.
Yeah, because I just was like, not moving forward. And I'm like, this has got to be the thing that's going to move me forward.
But
4 hours later, they come to check me again. And I'm had gone. I'm just riding the waves of these crazy contractions. If I knew that all of this pain I was going through was moving me forward and dilating me more, I could do it. So I freaked out. In my head, I was like, I need to rest, and I can't rest. I'm so tired. I've been at this for 28 hours and I'm so exhausted. I couldn't imagine trying to push her out at that point. I would have been so tired. At
this point, this was really hard. So we had been walking around the hospital for almost like a day, what seemed like a day, and you were having contractions. You were just shaking, like you couldn't stop shaking. It was really scary. I just remember just holding you up and feeling your body shake and helping you into the shower, and that was the only thing that was helping you. I think your decision to get the epidural is what helped move the labor forward.
Well, yeah, so I was like, okay, give me the epidural. I just couldn't. I could, but I couldn't. If I went without the epidural and no sleep, I don't think I would have been able to have the strength to push her out.
We did have a conversation because they offered you just to
fentanyl
to shoot fentanyl straight rather than.
Well, I don't think they said shoot fentanyl.
Well, I don't. How do you describe what Cause
they just give you some fentanyl.
Yeah.
I was like, well, what's the risk of fentanyl? And it's it could impact the baby's breathing.
But they didn't. They did. They said that
an epidural actually doesn't impact the baby.
Yeah.
There are risks for the epidural, but they're more for me. And I was like, that's what always is going to be my decision with her.
But it was interesting because they said the epidural's fentanyl as well. But if you take it as an epidural and it's injected into your spine, it doesn't cross over the placenta to the baby.
Right.
And I felt like when they made the initial offer, they didn't mention that.
That's because it's something that they do a lot. A lot of people, they do the doses. That's their alternative to an epidural, is they do their doses of fentanyl. But once I heard that it could impact the baby's respiratory system or make her a little more sleepy, I was like, no. So then got the epidural. I was having contractions while he was he was doing it. Somehow I stayed still. I was just like, you have to stay still. Really good. And he's like, this is going to be a big pinch. And I'm like, this is nothing compared to what I've been going through, this pinch. He did it, got the epidural, and it worked, thank God. Sometimes epidurals don't work. And then I was able to sleep. The new nurse came in. The new doctor came in. They checked me.
The sun came out.
The morning rose. I was 7 centimeters dilated. And then they gave Pitocin. Yeah. Because they're like, your contractions are 7 minutes apart. Your body's just not moving this along.
You were so brave. You really were so brave, baby. You did such a good job. And you were so strong. And It was just really hard to watch you go through that. After you got the epidural, you were like, all right, you were a champ.
I took
You
a
were a
nap. I took a
champ.
sleep, and I was like, this is great.
Oh my gosh. It was like a totally different experience after
it
that.
was. And we had a great nurse, and I loved our doctor. They gave me the Pitocin, and I got to 10 centimeters pretty quick. And they're like, okay, we're going to start pushing. And I was like, really? Like, I was like, oh my gosh, we finally got here. But I remember when they gave me the epidural and I started to fall asleep. You just laid down on the couch and just like, like you like didn't move. Like you just like lay. The nurse came over and like covered you with a blanket. Remember, I was like, stop snarling.
Because I was just doing everything.
He was like trying to stay awake. You
everything I could.
You were like, and I was like, stop snarling. But you were like trying to stay awake.
As I massaged your back, I was like, it was the best I could do to stay awake.
Oh, sweetie, I know. But in the moment, I was like, why are you snarling? Stop snarling. I don't want to look at you snarling while I'm going through this. It was funny. But what did you think when they said that I got the 10 centimeters and it was time to start pushing?
I mean, I felt like, that transition in the Disney movie when Simba is singing Hakuna Matata. Like everything, it went from real dark to like, okay, we're having a good time with Timon and Pumbaa now.
Yeah, jamming out.
It's funny because you played Here Comes the Sun to
for
Leo
her all the time when I was pregnant with her.
Yeah,
that was her song. I would be like, hey baby, you want to hear your song? I would ask her that.
And she's like, I'm not coming until the sun comes out. That's why she waited till the 26th.
Yeah, she did.
It took a while to get a sunny day in Seattle. How many hours was it total?
41.
Almost 2 days straight.
It was time to push, and I couldn't believe it. I was like, oh my God, really? And started pushing, and then they were like, okay, we're going to call the doctor in. It was really quick. And then I pushed her out. I think I did 3 sets of pushes.
It was like an hour and a half or so. I remember they said, oh, she's got hair. And I looked, and I saw her curly hair. And I just cried. I cried. And then when she came out and I saw her, I cried again. I cried twice.
You let out like a little sob.
Yeah.
Sweet. Then she was on me, and I looked at her, and she looked at me, and I just like, she knew she had this deep soul, like this very grounding, beautiful energy. But they were trying to get her to cry. She cried a little bit, but she was blue. They let the cord blood go to her. We did delayed. Mm-hmm. They let you cut the cord, but I was like, hurry, cut the cord, because they called the NICU team in because she needed help with some oxygen. And thank goodness we didn't do the fentanyl. The rule was that Zach had to follow the baby. Like, leave me, the doula will stay with me, you go wherever our girl goes. Like, don't let her out of your sight. But they didn't take her to the NICU. She stayed in the room.
They took her over and they started moving her around to try to get her to start breathing. And they actually did have to put her up on a ventilator to make oxygen. To get oxygen. She was kind of like getting a little startled, and obviously she's like, what is happening?
Where all of a sudden,
who are
I'm
these
in
things?
This alien world, it's cold and bright.
And I kind of leaned over because I'm standing right there as all it's happening, and I just said her name, and I said, hey Galileo, it's your dad. And I was like, it's okay, Daddy's right here. And then she just looked right at me with her big eyes, and it was like she knew. She knew as soon as she heard my voice. She knew it was me.
All that singing to her in the belly every night and talking with your loud voice. She knows you.
Yes, but it was the quickness because they're like moving her around, and kind of like being aggressive. It's kind of hard to watch. Oh my God, I should talk about this part. Watching her be delivered was so hard. There's like the logical side of me that knows that this is a professional, they know what they're doing, and then there is the emotional side of me that is watching my baby's head get squeezed and like I'm like, okay, can we can you just like a little lighter with the hands,
she wasn't like squeezing her.
Yeah, I mean her head was getting squeezed. I'm like,
is her head okay?
Please do not hurt my daughter.
Be gentle with my baby.
Yes, it was very, very tough. Part of me had to like switch off and just be like, okay,
Don't do any jujitsu
moves. No, no, but yes. But I just, I trusted the doctor who delivered her, and she did an amazing job. I was so happy to have that doctor there.
Yeah, she was great.
She just really changed the energy in the room.
She changed it completely. And then they put her back on me, and we did skin to skin, and she actually had meconium at that point. And she had it when she was inside of me, she could have breathed it in, and it's a whole other set of issues. But she was out, and it was just magical to have her on me and out of me, but like on me. And then she did skin to skin with you.
Mm-hmm.
And what song was playing when she was born?
Yeah, we turned on I Hope You Dance.
Yeah.
By Leanne Womack.
And that is the birth story of Galileo Terry Whitehouse.